Welcome to iCabbi's Marketplace Spotlight. I'm Sinead for iCabbi, and today I am delighted to welcome Amer Hasan from Minicabit to our series. So, Amer, I have had the pleasure of interviewing one of your colleagues on Spotlight before. So, the viewers of the series are all very familiar with Minicabit as the UK's largest cab aggregator. So, I guess I'd like to speed up our interview process and bring things right up to the present day. What's happened since I interviewed you guys back in June of last year at the PHTM event? There's obviously been a huge impact to the industry of COVID-19. So how has this impacted Minicabit, and what changes have you made to the business to address some of the challenges that have arisen?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm delighted to be part of the spotlight. Well, they do say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So, Minicabit's proved very resilient, and that's no doubt in part to our cab operator partners and also their drivers as well. So, the first thing is we started seeing a softening of bookings, as COVID started to hit. And one of the first things we did, very proud of the team and our partners in pulling this off, is that we actually raised £250,000, and we funded free trips for NHS staff to reach their hospitals, hospices, and mental health centres around the UK. And it kept the drivers busy, kept the network going, and importantly, got the NHS service to the front line. And a big outcome of that is that we developed a set of COVID-safe guidelines for passengers and drivers to follow, which you can imagine if you're transporting them in the peak of a pandemic, you definitely learn to cultivate those. And since then, we've joined the Go Safe, Go Taxi charter as well. So looking back, it's a good legacy in terms of how we've managed to keep the network running throughout. The second thing we've seen since the bounce back, which happened around June, is that we started to see a shift more towards out of town trips, and not just in the big cities. So generally about half our work in the past has been in the M25, and half the demand is around the UK. And we've certainly seen a shift towards trips, to coastal areas, as you can imagine, with staycations and things like that happening. And because of the shift towards remote working, more trips being taken in the smaller towns and cities around the UK. And that really plays into Minicabit's strength as a network that covers 550 towns and cities.
Let me ask you,
Yeah.
Amer, one of the things that I know is one of your selling points for bringing fleets on board to your platform is the value of the trips that you offer. You do a lot of airport work, which obviously isn't happening at the moment, but you tend to do longer range trips. I think last year you were looking at the average price of trip being about £40. What is it now?
Yeah, so it's climbed up to about £54
Okay.
since lockdown. Yeah, so and that's partly because the nature of the work that we're unlocking for fleets is certainly much higher value, and it's down to the fact that as an aggregator, if you're giving that comparison element, although we do get lots of local trips as well, don't get me wrong, we really do make it feasible for cab operators to get longer distance work through our platform. And that,
And that's actually particularly important at the moment. One of the things that we have noticed is, well, the trip bookings have certainly gone up for our fleets. We're seeing an average of about 60 or 70% back to that kind of level. The
yeah,
distance of the trips is shorter, so people doing smaller runs. And I guess then if fleets want to tap into some higher value trips, joining
yeah,
Minicabit might actually be a really good option for them in order to give the drivers that long run out in the motorway that they're missing. Some drivers are,
yeah.
purely geared towards doing long airport trips, and they're just not happening at the moment.
Yeah, so I mean, to give you a vivid example of how our platform helps that is that a while back, a record trip was from Snowdonia in Surrey, in North Wales to Surrey, and we didn't have a fleet near Snowdonia at the time. So in that case, it went to a fleet in the M25 that was able to go out on a prepaid basis to pick up the customer and bring them back. So that way we could extend the reach of cab operators, to pick up or drop off, even in the most remotest areas as well.
Okay, so you don't have to be at the pickup location to service the trip,
Yeah,
because mostly these trips are pre-booked. They're a good few
yeah,
hours or days out. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. So we get probably a healthy amount of bookings are within the day for sure, but we do get bookings as far as 12 months in advance as well. So it's a
Wow.
very kind of flexible platform.
Okay, so if you are a driver and you know that you're going to be returning to your city, it's okay to go out far away to bring that trip back once you're
Yeah,
being brought home at the same time. Another thing I noticed that's new on the platform is you're moving a little bit towards green promotion. Is that right?
yeah. So what we're all seeing after the pandemic is a momentum behind a green recovery. And whilst there's a lot of noise around, people walking and taking scooters and so on, in reality, the cab sector has a huge part to play. And so what we anticipate is that will be where fleets have got an electric vehicle, we can certainly feature that and offer a low commission for providing those bookings. We also spotlight it in the booking flow when people are coming onto our website. We actually show zero emissions as a prominent option. And we'll be releasing some tools over the next few months that will enable fleets to get a better handle as to how they can monetize taking on these electric vehicles.
Okay, well, we're with you. We believe the future of taxi is electric
Absolutely.
too. So moving on, then we've talked about external forces and how COVID has impacted the business. Internal forces in the taxi industry. I saw you wrote an article in the most recent issue of the PHTM around around Uber and Autocab's sale, I guess, to Uber and what that means for the sector. Can you summarize some of your thoughts that you put down in that piece?
Yeah, so as an aggregator, we have to be as neutral as we can be. So, but our key stakeholder is obviously the cab operator partner. And so the key messages are, first and foremost, whatever judgments or decisions a cab operator makes, they should have their eyes wide open. And we can understand in this current climate, it's easy to think, well, okay, if any new channel opens up, it can help my business over the next few months. But something like that kind of transaction with Uber and Autocab could have profound effects for your business over not just 3 months or 6 months, but even 3 years. So what I did in my article was really outline the not so much the emotion, but very much the practical, even technical elements of the implications that the deal could have for your business. So for instance, probably my biggest concern is that um, if you've got an arch rival like Uber owning the software that runs your own accounts, forget aggregators and so on, but where if you've got your own corporate accounts, your own customers, and they can see sensitive data, not so much customer information. I don't, with GDPR that shouldn't happen, won't happen. But looking at your pricing information and whatever else that you've got about how you run your own customers, your own channel, that's probably the biggest concern. And so it's really important that everyone is super vigilant about what the implications are. That's my main message.
Okay, so let me ask you just to weigh things up a little bit here. Autocap has presented Uber as a benevolent, benign aggregator into the taxi industry to feed trips into its customers. You're also a aggregator. What's the difference between you and Uber?
Well, I think first thing to say, there's nothing benign or benevolent about Uber in their behaviour, right? So, on the one hand, look, I welcome any player that comes in and galvanizes the sector to deliver a better service and better experience. And one could argue that Uber and the like have helped do that, but I don't quite agree with all the practices that they've followed to achieve that. I think the so a key part of our mission at Minicabit is that is to showcase what cab operators are offering every day, right? And despite all the technology that any platform can provide, ultimately you're as good as the driver that turns up, right? Ultimately, it's about a great driver coming in at an affordable price to pick you up in hopefully a very nice car. And what Minicabit is doing is showcasing that a local fleet can offer that experience as good as, if not better, than a ride-hailing app, right? So now, how we are different to the likes of Uber slash Autocab and so on, is that first of all, it's not in our DNA to be a fleet operator, right? We are very much like Booking.com. We're not an Expedia that's pretending to try and run an airline. So we're very much about finding extra work for our cab operator partners. I'm not trying to compete with them in any way. Secondly, we actually, it's a very flexible platform. So, and we can level the playing field. So going back to that point, you're as good as the car and the driver that you send. So you could be a small fleet in a small town, and who can actually compete as effectively as a large fleet in terms of price and quality of service. And we're there to kind of showcase that. And so we have about 800 operators in total on our platform, covering 550 towns and cities around the UK. And it's really nice to see, we've got some of the biggest fleets who are on iCabbi, who may have enough local work, but they're using our system to get more out of town work that they wouldn't always get. And then you have smaller fleets who are really leaning on the platform to bring extra customers that they can't easily acquire online. And so that's where we see a value being added, that we take care of finding the customers, helping you find what an optimal price is on a per route basis, and showcasing the quality of service that you can offer to customers, right? And then the other important point is that in terms of the source of traffic, we do have these major partnerships. So if you go on Heathrow Airport's website, Stansted Airport, Expedia, Visit Britain, the tourism body, Ascot, and many others, we've managed to secure these partnerships on behalf of the cab operators, which they couldn't easily source themselves, right? And so we can help unlock more and more traffic for these for our cab operator partners. And last but not least, we're actually the third most visited cab website in the UK. So just behind Uber and Addison Lee, who've had a few $1 billion in decades head start on us respectively. But we're a pretty significant source of business for cab operators for sure.
Okay, so if I'm a fleet owner, I'm thinking I can piggyback on the marketing prowess of Minicabit and also those big contracts that you've been able to win because of the size of the business. I can now tap into that business, which I wouldn't be able to get by myself as a small local operator.
That's right. That's right. And the beauty of our integration with iCabbi is that if a booking comes straight in, you don't need to worry about any extra management of that booking. It's all within your iCabbi system.
What about the competition between fleets on the platform? What advice can you give to customers of ours who may already be on Minicabit or are considering joining? How can they stay competitive and win those trips?
So first of all, the huge benefit of the system is that we can give you insights as to how you're actually converting on a per route basis. So going back to what I said earlier, you can decide how much or how little you want to use the platform, right? And you can decide what times of the day or week that you want to use it, and what kind of work that you'd like to get. What we do is we only make money when the fleet does, right? And so we're always giving intelligence back to the cab operator saying, okay, for these routes, you can actually optimize your price. If you've got drivers in this part of the city, or if they're floating around, you can actually get more work in this kind of area. So so in terms of we don't, for us, the size of the fleet doesn't really matter. It's how many cars you have available at any one time, and that's really up to you as to how much you want to make your fleet available. So what we do is we look at the area that you're in, we look at the kind of revenue that you'd like to make on a weekly basis, and we'll work with you to unlock that revenue.
Okay, great. So finally, let me ask you, it's been a tough week in the UK with announcements coming out from Boris Johnson around further restrictions and potentially taking, up to the next 6 months is going to be a semi form of lockdown. How difficult is this going to be for the taxi sector? And what do you think fleets can do to help ride that wave or get through that storm again?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'd say there are a few things. So obviously, the most important thing is that the drivers are safe and healthy, and also that they can convey that it's a safe mode of transport to take, and versus public transport. So and there are guidelines that the industry has coupled together to help drive that. I think the second thing is there is we are still seeing bookings, right? People still need to be mobile, whether you're a business traveler, so about a quarter of our bookings are taken for business, and you need to get to essential remote sites. There's still that opportunity. People are still traveling to and from the airports. So it's important that if you look at your pricing, some operators may have come up with their rate card a few years ago and left it in the drawer, haven't looked at it. It's important to refresh your pricing, make sure it is competitive. And it's also useful to look at intercity or longer distance trips and think about, okay, and again, we can help you with this. Think about how you can actually make your fleet much more attractive for whether it's a business person or a family that needs to travel out of town. I think the industry could have done a better, can do a better job in making itself a more viable mode of transport for out of town trips than it has in the past.
Absolutely. Okay, so for fleets looking at maybe a little bit of diminished demand, perhaps Minicabit can be the answer for you guys too. So if you haven't already signed up, you can visit Minicabit on the iCabbi marketplace. Amer, it has been great to talk to you. So thank you very much, and we will see you back here again soon.
Hopefully not mask to mask, but face to face. Yeah.
Hopefully so.
Yeah. Thank you.